Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, it's me, Uncle Davy, also known as Usenet Posts, Hooligan, or whatever you want to call me. And yeah, difference about this little series coming up is I'm on holiday, and I don't have in the car any of my family, which is a little bit selfish, isn't it, to go on holiday on my own. I was hoping that maybe my wife would want to go with me, but she couldn't, and she would have done, but she couldn't get anybody to look after the kiddie winkies. But I fancied actually backing out of this at the last minute because I don't feel great about going off on my own. But it's to the Berlin Polyglots conference, and yeah, I suppose that, well, I mean, that's a hobby, isn't it? One day maybe I'd like to take it to a level where I could do it for a living, but polyglottery, but I don't really see a mechanism whereby that would be possible to do without me inputting a load of capital, which I don't necessarily have, and certainly giving up accountancy, which I'm deeply embroiled in anyway. So you know, that's what I'll do if I can't carry on in accountancy. But well, it seems to me that there are more opportunities to do audits and things than there are to explain to people how to become polyglots and yet get paid for it, because most of them that are in the time of wanting to learn how to learn languages and who want to do it are not really in a position or willing to pay much money. And why should they? In the end, to become a linguist is all your work. Me explaining to you a good method, well, that saves you a lot of work and essentially is probably worth money, but hell, I've had so many people do me favours and give me good advice over the years that I almost feel rather that giving people the gold list method is something to pay back to humanity and maybe give a bit on top than and end up with a current account surplus rather than a current account deficit in those terms. So I don't, charge for most of the stuff which I do, like one-to-many. If somebody wants a lot of one-to-one, then well, I do it for some people that have become friends, but in the main, I'd expect you, if you're asking me for a lot of one-to-one help, then you should be coming with a budget, because it becomes like work when I do it one-to-one in many cases. Not in all cases. There are some of you know who you are who know that I'm very happy to talk one-to-one, but I just can't afford to do that. Can't afford the time. It just takes away the time that I'd be doing other things. There's lots of things that I could do, like finish off the Hooliganov course, do the book for the Hooliganov course, do the gold list book and all of that. Here comes a nice plane in to land, this time without me in it, hopefully. I don't fancy being in two places at once anyway. But this is the first time that I'm actually travelling, not on that road, because I go there to pick Sophie up and put Sophie off to school in her new school that she goes to, but this bit where Poznan goes off this way, because now from about 1.5 to 2 kilometres from my home, which is about the same what it is on the Hemel Hempstead side, I can go all the way, with just the exception of the bit around the tunnel, to my other home in England, all the way with just just motorway now. That's how far on we've come. Whether I will choose to take all the road to Berlin by motorway or not is another matter. Oh, it's horrible. I didn't expect it to start immediately getting all rainy like this, but there you go. It's a good job really that I've got a conference for my holiday, because if I just planned to be lounging around doing stuff on my patio or sitting out doing languages on my patio, it would be very disappointing today. But as it is, I can travel just like any other conditions. I'm not too worried about driving in the rain. I got used to it. I do come from England after all. So I mean, this is like Brer Rabbit's bramble patch to me. Even if I aquaplane with only one hand on the steering wheel, I'm not too bothered about it. So have to do it a bit quicker, I think. That's really quite tough. That's tough rain, isn't it? Nice dachas over there, Polish style dachas. They're not quite as flush as your Russian dacha. I'll have to shout to get heard. Anyway, that's basically the start of what I'm doing. This is just an introduction to what the Polyglot conference in Berlin is all about. That was one of two Polyglot conferences mooted for this year, following on from the one previous year in Hungary that I've got quite a lot of footage from that I haven't even put up yet, which just goes to show I'm well behind. I'm not far from being in a position where I can start putting it up. I did put up one piece, which is the Emanuele Marini piece, but that's just one small piece. I've taken cameras of all sorts to this location. I didn't remember about a tripod, which is a bit annoying. I should have probably remembered that, but never mind. I'll deal with that question somehow. Wow, this is real aquaplaning stuff. Well, I was hoping to see it, but I can barely see it because I'm driving it for the first time. But the rain is so hard actually that I can't even really see or have the benefit of what I'm doing. So yeah, like I say, it's one of a series of one of two rather conferences, Polyglot conferences. The one which was done by Richard Simcott and Luca Lampariello. The others as well are involved. I'm just talking about the two. In each case, I'll just give two names because that's just. But I mean by it also the others that have helped, because these things usually have an immense team, and certainly this one in Berlin seems to have an immense team of people that are volunteers effectively. As far as I know, they're not getting paid for their time, and probably, I don't even know if they're getting expenses covered, but presumably, hopefully they are. Otherwise the thing would presumably be completely free, which it isn't, but it's very cheap. It's cheap enough so that, you know, even penniless students can go along. They didn't ask more for the waged. Had they done so, I would have paid more. There's an idea for you if you're running these conferences and it's difficult to get them to break even. Hopefully they budgeted things out carefully and thought of everything and don't have any what have you. But I see no reason why, if you're in a if you share a hobby, the waged and the unwaged, you're sharing a hobby, and you're going on a conference which is for that hobby. I don't see why the waged shouldn't be asked to cough up. After all, if it's they should even have 3 classes. Yeah, they might even have 4 classes, whereby where you have like student class or retired, yeah, which is worth 1 of base, but then they have another which is low waged, which is, let's say, 1.5 of the base, highly waged or well paid people, which is like 2 of the base, and then if somebody wants to like have their name placed in as a special sponsor, they could do like 2.5. So it's like you know, that kind of level. I don't see a problem with that. After all, we're all in a hobby together, and some of us have got more income than others, and why not spread it out a bit? It should be on a basis of to a degree voluntarily. So if somebody can describe themselves as either well paid or not well paid, depending on whether they want to pay more or not pay more, or if they want to say, yes, I'm doing fine, and I'm also somebody that ought to be semi-sponsoring the conference, then there should be a kind of semi-sponsor status as well. And of course you've got the real full sponsor status for corporates, and they obviously, even without sending anybody, they've got to pay certain levels of money to have their stand or their adverts going on around the conference, or be associated with the conference. And if you put all that all together, you should be able to have a conference which is pretty affordable for the lowest rank as far as income's concerned, which is good, because I mean there's people who I would respect very much as linguists that are still students and some who are retired, and I'd like to see them there. I wouldn't like for money to be a barrier to them being there.